Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Department of Environmental Engineering and Kolhapur Institute of Technologies, College of Engineering Autonomous Kolhapur, I welcome all the participants, students, faculty members, alumni, and today's resource person, Mr. Shailendra Joshi sir, for this webinar on climate change and carbon neutrality, organized under Reconnect, a student alumni dialogue initiative, phase 2, organized by Department of Environmental Engineering. So this is the platform where we try to uh, invite our distinguished alumni so as to share their experience, so as to share their expertise, so that all the students, faculty members, and other alumni will get benefited, and this will enhance the knowledge in a particular field. Also, our students will come to know some of the opportunities in different domains of environmental engineering. So, keeping this objective in mind, we have started this reconnect activity. As you all are aware that in reconnect phase 1 we had invited around 15 alumni and different sessions were conducted. So this is phase 2 of that same activity, reconnect student alumni dialogue initiative. So again, on behalf of Department of Environmental Engineering and KIT family, I welcome Mr. Shailendra Joshi sir, who is General Manager, Corporate Environment and Sustainability, Mumbai International Airport Limited. So he's working over there, and he is distinguished alumnus of 1998-1999 batch. So I welcome you, sir, for this webinar.
Thank you.
I thank you for accepting our invitation and for giving your valuable time. Thank you very much, sir. Now I would request Mrs. M.N. Sarnobat madam to introduce today's guest. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Hello.
हाँ sir. Just a minute.
Not started.
हाँ.
Sir,
हाँ yes ma'am. हाँ yes ma'am. हाँ yes ma'am.
Shall I start again?
Yes ma'am. Yes ma'am. Actually, the audio was on mute mode, so you can start introducing the today's chief guest.
Yes. Okay.
Friends are requested to please mute your mic.
I remember 20 years back, in 1999, the student who was very sincere, honest, and having hardworking nature stood first. He stood first in rank in university level in environmental engineering. Today we have him as our guest for a webinar. Today we have him as our guest for a webinar, Climate Change and Carbon Neutrality.
Okay.
Being his classmate, I remember at that time he used to travel daily from Thursday to Kolhapur by public transport to attend the college. By consistent efforts, By consistent efforts, now he has reached to a greatest height of his career point. Shailendra has completed BE in Environmental Engineering, MTech in Environmental Science and Technology, Advanced Diploma in Industrial Safety, and now he is pursuing PG Diploma in Environmental Law from National Law School of Bangalore. Okay, along with these educational qualifications, he has completed different professional trainings also, like lead auditor, lead IGBC AP exam. He has cleared IGBC AP exam. Then auditor for water footprint assessment. Now, presently, he is presently working at Mumbai International Airport Limited as a general manager, corporate environment and sustainability from 2010 till date. He has many achievements and contributions. He is working as environmental and sustainability professional with over 20 plus years of rich experience in the areas of environmental engineering. So he has worked as a member of Regional Environmental Committee of Airport Council International Asia Pacific region. Then he has designed and implemented sustainability management framework at Mumbai International Airport and become the first Indian airport to publish the sustainability report. He has his contribution in design and implementation of carbon accounting management system and achieved carbon neutrality status for Mumbai Airport. He has his contribution in LEED Platinum certification for Terminal 2. Then he has his contribution in obtaining environmental clearance from MOEFCC for new airport development projects. So we have now as a guest. He has reached up to this level of success after struggling for a period of 20 years. As students, I promise you that definitely you will get knowledge in the area of carbon neutrality after listening to him. So if you have any questions, please post in the chat box. After his session, the Q&A session will be addressed or discussed. Now I request Shailendra Joshi sir to start his presentation.
Thank you, Manisha, for this nice introduction. I am audible? Hello?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay,
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for nice introduction altogether. Students, as you know, I'm the alumni of KIT College. I passed in 1999 as an environmental engineer from KIT, and then since then I'm working with different industries like automobile manufacturing, auto components, PEPs, and now in the aviation. So different areas of environmental and sustainability I'm working with. So today we are just having a touch base upon the concept of climate change and carbon neutrality. I hope this might be your subject in one of your second or third year or maybe a last year curriculum, climate change and carbon neutrality. But still, actually, it is very different. Just to implement it on ground, and maybe you can say if it is on the books, if you study on the books, so there is a difference to it. Hold on, I'll just make on my video if possible. I'll see. Sorry. So, just to start with the introduction on the climate change, basically climate change is a long-term effect which is affected over a wide area and has seasonal changes which are measured along a long span of time. It is not immediate action or immediate reaction of any activity. It is a long-term process, and just to identify it, you have to do a long-term measures and long-term measurements to know the impact of the climate change. The climate change, this includes global warming, which is very well known now, and the side effects of global warming, you all of know that melting of glaciers, heavier rainstorms, and more frequent drought. So, global warming refers to long-term rise in the average temperature of the Earth's climate system. So, this will have impact on the global warming, and you can say it's melting of glaciers and change in the climate pattern of the Earth. So, the global warming is generally agreed and to be caused by the emissions of GHG greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, chlorofluorocarbons, and other chemicals into the atmosphere. So this is a very, you can say, basic information what the global warming is. I will not spend much time on it. So these are the gases of the global warming: this carbon dioxide, methane, nitrogen oxide, hydrofluorocarbons, carbon monoxide, sulfur oxides, water vapor, and chlorofluorocarbons. So you know the phenomenon of the global warming. So I will not explain this image which is shown on the slide. So if you see the sectors of the greenhouse gas emissions worldwide, uh, there are various sectors which are contributing to the GHG emissions. So, of course, the major gas is the carbon dioxide, but still, from the sector from which it is coming is also important. The electricity and heat sector is contributing 24%, and industry contributing 10%, and fuel combustion 9%, industrial processes 3%, land use change is 18%, and agricultural 13%. So these are the sectors from which the GHG emissions are happening. So basically, from agriculture, you can say the methane gas is being generated as a GHG gas. If you see the country-wise GHG emissions in the world, if you say still you can say the China is has you can say 29%, in US is 16%, in India is 7%. Now it's still it's got some increase in it. So rest of the countries are having their contribution as compared to the world's GHG emissions and carbon emissions. These carbon emissions are considered all over emissions like energy consumption, fuel consumption, and the various activities in agriculture areas and their processes, then consumptions of various you can say uh, products and processes like the use of refrigerant gases for various activities and everything. So these calculations have been done by considering all over these activities. So the impact of the climate change, if you see the global context, yeah, it is melting of glaciers, then wildfires, overflooding of the rivers, ocean acidifications, heat waves, hurricanes, reduction in the agricultural productions, and heavy rainstorm. These are the globally accepted and globally you can say identified impacts of the climate change. Yeah, and if you see the Indian context of it, yeah, definitely those impacts are there in India. But still, if you see the Indian context, the precipitation change, maybe you are experiencing the change in the precipitation pattern in India in last you can say 10 years. In various parts of India, various states of India, so change in the precipitation pattern and temperature change definitely. Maybe in the Kolhapur also you are experiencing the change in the temperature in the summer season. Then the sea level rise, yes. Right now, some of the islands like Andaman Nicobar or any small islands which are in, so those are like Fiji, or you can say latest news is the Jakarta, Indonesia. So I think in the last year in the Jakarta, the sea level rise is there. So they have to change their offices and all this government officials and everything to another city so that they should not affect it, the change in the you can say rise in the sea level. Then groundwater reduction. So these are the impacts of the climate change at various levels and various you can say in countries. So, as I said, the global these are the mitigation measures against the climate change. Yeah, in the global context, what we can do is climate analyzing mechanisms like CDM, clean development mechanism projects, joint implementation, emission trading, and carbon sequestration, use of renewable energy, low carbon electricity. So these are the global at the global context. These are the you can say measures which we have to take, and these measures have been discussed in the various platforms like Paris agreements and various meetings at the global levels by the countries and everything. And you can say in the Indian context, the measures against climate change, the interlinking of the rivers, and INDC commitments, and use of the genetically modified crops, practicing CDMs in India. So these are the measures which we can take at India level. If you see the CDM projects, Clean Development Mechanism projects in India, so presently the wind having its highest portion is 42%, then biomass energy is 15%, hydro projects which are less than 5 megawatt capacity, are 10%. Then solar is 8%. Now it will increase. Solar is increasing. Then energy efficiency projects are 15%. Others are 10%. So these are the major CDM projects registered from India, you can say. So these are the, you can say, total climate change impact on the global and Indian context. So to achieve to combat those impact of the climate change, there is one concept called net zero emission, which is also being called as carbon neutrality, being talked of in recent years. And many industries, many companies, many corporates are acquiring these concepts and working towards that. So recently, COP21 Paris Agreement also talks about this carbon neutrality and reduction of the carbon emission level from the industries. So what we can see it as a net zero emission. So net zero emission, what it is? So net zero emission are achieved when anthropogenic emissions of greenhouse gases to the atmosphere are balanced by the anthropogenic removal of the specific period of time. So in simpler words, which I can say, so whatever emissions which we are doing as an industry or as a unit, like starting from uh, use of fuel like petrol, diesel for various activities and for the boilers or whatever it may be. Then use of electricity in various processes. Then use of uh, gas, GHG gases like refrigerating gases everywhere. So these are the gases. These are the activities which you are doing at, regularly. So you have to through these activities you are emitting carbon dioxide. If you are using your vehicle to go to any place for 1 or 2 kilometers, then you are using fuel like petrol in two-wheeler, you can say. So you are emitting the carbon dioxide into atmosphere. That CO2 is also adding to the climate change impact. So these are the GHG. You can see if you see the graph, and these are the GHG emissions, and these are the carbon emission levels. You can say so by 2100, the carbon emissions level will be reduced at the optimum level by taking various measures like solar, then energy conservation, and wind and everything. And if you see the next level, how to achieve it, if you in that graph you can say this is a net zero, this is second graph which is being shown over here. So carbon removal technologies has to be implemented to reduce it. So if you see the earlier graph, so the minimum carbon emission level will reach in 2100 at a global level. But if you uh, implement various carbon removal technology strategies, then it will come in 2050 only for any industry. So what are those technologies? Carbon reduction technology. So they will discuss in this presentation what are the technologies which we have to adopt and how to achieve this carbon neutrality or net zero emission. So nowadays you can see this electricity operated vehicles are there, CNG operated vehicles are there. So though the electricity is also emitting CO2 gas, but it is less than the diesel or petrol. So it is less carbon emission than petrol. And if you use the CNG operated vehicle, then it will be less than electricity operated vehicle. So these are the changes which we need to adopt at industry level. If you see the international perspective, like just 67 countries and 8 US states have a net zero ambition. So they have taken ambitions in net zero in coming years. So if Bhutan is already achieved a carbon positive or net zero state, you can say a country. And looking ahead, the Norway has been planned to achieve a net zero emission by 2030. If a state or a country is being set a target for himself to reduce the carbon emissions to a net zero level, this means they have implemented the policies and procedures, and you can say in such a way that legal legislations that all the activities, all the operations, all the industries, all the transportation facilities in that country is being converted into net zero carbon emission. You can say efficient carbon emission policies are being implemented in those areas. So you can say like public transportation, like metros or school buses or normal buses, then aviation, then you can say in any industries in that state, they are being targeted to achieve this net zero emissions by certain year to achieve for the country. So you can say the countries like Verizon, RB, Infosys joined Amazon to co-founded Climate Change Place to Net Zero and target 2035 to 2040. So by 2035 and 2040, so Amazon, this Infosys and Verizon, they are trying to be a carbon neutral or net zero emission. So it is not easy, or it is not a easy call, easy decision for a company to take a call on a carbon neutrality. But they have to make a plans and processes in such a way that over a period of time they will achieve all those things. So if you see, the fourth point here is only 13 out of 132 largest energy companies committed to net zero emission. So for those companies, it's also very difficult to commit to have a net zero emissions. So in the national perspective in India, you can say Indian Railways targets 2030 to achieve net zero carbon emissions. So you know the Indian Railways are the densest railway, and they have these connections to all parts of India. So they have also kept the target of 2030. You can say 10 years down the line to achieve the net zero carbon emission. And Infosys is the only Indian company to, I told you, by 2040 they want to achieve this carbon neutrality. Then the Almia Cement, then Polygentra Technologies, Tech Mahindra, Wipro, and other MNCs have urged to world leader to take steps towards green economy despite of COVID-19. So in the aviation, you can say the Cochin International Airport has become a 100% solar power operated airport in India. So this is the world's, I think, first airport as of now to use 100% solar energy for all its operation. The Cochin International Airport. So you can say steady rise in the net zero buildings in India. Net zero building means you can say there are various certifications available for the buildings like LEED certification, then green building certification, and all those things. So those that term is now rising. So if you see the aviation perspective, yes, the aviation is responsible for 2 to 3% of the global man-made CO2 emissions. This means the whatever emissions are there in the global carbon dioxide emissions, only 2% of that is being due to aviation. So, within the 2%, within the 2 to 3%, you can say 95% of that is being done by aircraft emissions. So, like aircraft going from one place to like Mumbai to Delhi or Mumbai to you can say Frankfurt or so emissions caused by that particular travel is being done by the aircraft, while the remaining 5% are related to the airport activities. So what after landing of the aircraft, it will go to it is a taxiing and parking and everything. So those activities are only 5% of the total CO2 emissions. So to address that 5% emissions, so Airport Council International (ACI), which is their ACI is the worldwide governing body of the airport operators, and they have this office in Hong Kong for the Asia Pacific region. So they have started this carbon accreditation program (ACA) in 2009. So in that program, so all the airport operators have to participate into that one, and they have to set a target to achieve this carbon neutral status or carbon neutrality. There are 4 steps. I will explain those steps further in the slides. So those you have to achieve those 4 steps in you can say 5 to 6 years down the line, and you will get a carbon neutrality certificate. So as of now, 63 airports have become carbon neutral in Asia Pacific region. So I told about the Cochin Airport is the next first carbon neutral airport, net zero airport. So 200 European airports are also committed to net zero airport by 2050. So as you know, in European region or in America, USA, they have the less tendency to, I can say, to protect the environment, as I can say. So they are not bothered about the pollution and everything, specifically in the USA. So they are also committed to reduce their emissions by you can say certain this 2050 is for European airports, but for the American also, there many airports are now participating in the ACI program. Birmingham Airport targets 2035 net zero. Qantas commits net zero by 2050. Qantas is an airline, so Qantas airline also try to commit. So how do the airline do that? So because they need to use the fuel, so they are going to the biofuel concept. So the airlines are using the biofuels, and in India also we have started one flight. The India Airport Authority of India tested a flight using a biofuel from Delhi to one location. So we have succeeded. So those things are also started. It's not you can say it's not widely started in India or in the world, but it is started. But you need to check the availability of the biofuels, and there are many aspects are there aspects of it to at the you can say production level. So there is one specific scheme has been introduced by ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization, that is CORSIA, Carbon Offsetting and Reduction Scheme for International Aviation. So whatever the airlines which are traveling internationally, so they have to sign this agreement called CORSIA. to reduce the carbon emission and to offset their carbon emission. So to achieve this carbon neutrality or net zero emissions, what we need to have these are the basic documents which we have. Uh, these documents will drive you to go to reach up to that level. It's not like that by just having these documents you will achieve their status. It is not like that, but this will guide you to guide you on the path. So first is environmental policy, which is very basic. What is the organizational thinking about the environment and pollution control activities arising due to their you can say productions or their industrial activities. Then greenhouse gas policy, then energy policy, the energy consumption policy of the company. In integrated management system policy, they should have the management system implemented in the company. Then corporate social responsibility, then the environmental management system as per this ISO 14001, then energy management system ISO 50001, and greenhouse gas management system. So they have the GHG. ISO is having a separate standard 14064 for GHG accounting and management. So if you see the net zero emission at airport, the net zero emission for the carbon neutrality, you can say for the industrial or operational unit means that all man-made greenhouse gas emissions occur due to the activity of the unit operations must be removed from the atmosphere through various reduction measures. So whatever emission is being done by you, by your company, has to be removed from the atmosphere. It has to be compensated. Like net carbon dioxide emissions over entire year should be zero. So there are three types of carbon emissions basically: scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. What are the scope 1 emissions? This is for the airport operation, but definitely scope 1 emissions, the definition is worldwide. You can consider this for other industries also. So scope 1 emission is basically the fuel consumption by owner, you can say the industry, like petrol, diesel. So if industry is having their own vehicles being used, so the petrol, diesel being consumed by the vehicles, and if any, you can say any boiler is there or any activities are where whether diesel is being used, so that is also being considered as a scope 1 emission. Then fuel used by DG set, and DG generator sets are there in the industry. So whatever fuel is being used by those DG sets is being considered as a scope 1 emission. Then use and top up of refrigerant in the chiller plant and AC. So definitely those are also scope 1 emissions. So it is not like that you need to fill it on annual basis, but definitely you need to top up those refrigerants in the chiller plant. So this your top up means whatever that particular, you can say, amount of gas is being released in the atmosphere. So that we need to top up it. So that is also to be need to calculate it under the scope 1 emission. Then use and refill of CO2 based fire extinguishers. If you have the fire extinguishers CO2 based, so definitely that is also being considered as a scope 1 emission. The scope 2 emission is brightly is electricity consumption. Whatever energy you are consuming, electricity you are consuming is a scope 2 emission for any industry. And scope 3 emissions are all other emissions, we can say, for all other indirect emissions. So in the context of the aviation, I can say LTO, landing and takeoff cycle operations from 3000 feet in the air to the ground, and ground movement also is being considered as one of the scope 3 emissions. Then passenger surface access to and from the airport. From the person is coming from his home to the airport by auto, by taxi, by train, or by personal vehicle. So that emission caused due to that particular vehicle movement is also being considered as a scope 3 emission of the airport. And daily staff commission to and from the airport. The staff is coming to office on daily basis for the work. So the emission from their vehicles is also being considered as a scope 3 emission. In staff business travel, definitely yes. If you are sending some staff to another city for some of the business, for the meetings or conferences or for any other work, then that has to be also considered. Then electricity consumption by the stakeholders, that is also to be considered as scope 3 emissions. Basically, scope 3 emissions are the emissions which you don't have direct control over it. You can influence those emissions, but you don't have direct control. So the consumption of electricity by the stakeholder means, suppose in your land there is one shop or some concessionaire is there, that person is using electricity and selling his product. So you don't have direct control over the electricity consumption of that person. So that is your scope 3 emissions. Suppose from the passenger is coming from his home to the airport, he may come by taxi, he may come by rickshaw, he may come by, you can say, train. So you don't have control over that particular travel. So that is your scope 3 emission. So like that, all the activities being handled by the airport, which they don't have direct control over it, are scope 3 emissions. So what are the net zero emissions at the airport? So how to reduce it? Scope 1 emissions. You can say scope 1 emissions, as I told, is fuel consumption, petrol, diesel consumption. So use of green fuel like CNG for vehicles and fleet buses. So it will drastically reduce the carbon dioxide consumption. Then use of battery operated vehicles in the terminal buildings. So you can see in the buildings we need to use the vehicles for some of the baggage makeup areas and airside. So you can say that will reduce the scope 1 emissions. In provision of CNG fueling station at airport, you can say if at the airport or if in industry you don't have CNG fueling station, then you cannot use the CNG gas continuously or frequently. And this will also, if you, then again you have to use the petrol, then again your CO2 emissions will increase. So maybe you need to also check the provision of CNG fueling stations in and around the area so that the gas is being refilled on continuous basis and emissions will be reduced. So for the scope 2 emissions, definitely you need to target the energy consumption of your activities and basically in your land or in the land. So maybe you have to make a policies in such a way that maximum green energy will be consumed at your your unit, or you can say at the airport. So what we have done at so maximum solar power installations are done in various areas so that maximum solar energy is being consumed. Then reduce you have to reduce your electricity consumption by taking various measures. So, as you know, this change of the normal bulbs to LED bulbs and the various chilling systems and the renewable lighting, so to change the lighting patterns and lighting systems. And there is a requirement of by the government and by the green building system also. You need to have this specific lux lighting should be available in the areas. So you have to maintain those lightings and reduce excessive lighting in those. So you have to take various measures like this to reduce the electricity consumption. Then next one is implement a ISO 50001 energy management system. This is very important and very good tool to control your energy consumption in your industry or in your business. So if you implement this system will the design of this system in such a way that the system will self take care of your electricity consumption and it will your you can say small initiatives or small projects will pop up through the system to reduce your energy consumption. Then next one is the purchase of green power like wind, solar, or small hydel power from the service provider. Now, for industry, there are various options available from which you can say from which in which source you need to purchase the power like wind or solar. So you need to choose that option also. So for the scope 3 missions, I will talk about the airport operations as such. So reduce the taxiing time for aircraft. So once the aircraft is landed on the runway, so suppose 1 minute is required from the runway to the parking or from the aero bridge for the aircraft. So we have to reduce that time, taxiing time by various measures so that 1 minute will reduce to you can say 40 seconds. So if consider for one aircraft you reduce the 20 seconds travel time, then that much fuel is saved for that particular aircraft. So like this if you are handling around say 800 900 aircrafts in a day, so that much of fuel is being saved. So these measures will reduce your scope 3 emissions like connection of public transport like metro train buses to the airport. So instead of if your metro or train is directly connected to the airport, you can say like Delhi airport, they have in the system that they have the metro station, so directly person can go by metro to airport. So like if it is like that, then people will less use their cars and other transport methods. Then they have to implement various airside efficiency improvement system like ACDM and Saga like that. So these systems are there, software-based systems are there that systems will optimize this aircraft movement on the ground in the airside areas in the airport. So they will use them. They will optimize this airside aircraft movement and they will reduce aircraft movement and timing. And taxi fleet at airport on the green fuel, then provision and support of electric vehicles. So these are the measures which we need to take by airport. So by implementing all above initiatives, still some residual emissions remain. So it is not like that airport can you can say 100% go for the green energy or you can say 100% go on carbon neutral by taking these initiatives. For small airport, yes, it is possible because their energy consumption is less than the requirement is also less. But for the bigger airport like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, and Hyderabad, so it is very difficult. The bigger industries also it is very difficult to go for offsetting based on these initiatives like solar and everything. So what we have to do, so those emissions can be offsetted by procuring certified emission reductions. So suppose you have the carbon emissions. After taking all these initiatives, you have this carbon emission, like 1,000 ton of carbon emission is there still from your industry. So though what you can do, you can offset those emissions by procuring CER. So you have to procure CERs from the international market. Like 1 CR is 1 tons of carbon emission reduction, and this CR has been issued by UNFCCC to that particular industry, but through CDM projects. If you implemented CDM project, then industry will give you CRs, and that CR you can sell to any other industry. So this is called a CDM mechanism. So you can purchase those CRs from anywhere. You can say from India or from Thailand or from anywhere in the world, wherever you get it cheap, right? And you can offset those particular emissions. And you have to participate in programs like airport carbon accreditation. As I told, like ACI, I mean, there are many agencies introducing these programs, and you have to participate in this program. Those programs will help you to achieve this carbon neutrality status. Then there are systems like management systems like ISO 14064 2006, GHG emissions and removal management systems are there by ISO. So you have to go for such systems, and they will help you to identify your GHG emissions and offsetting rules and everything. They will help. These systems will help you to go further into that. So if you see, these are the efficiency factors you can say. Like ATF, this air traffic fuel, aviation turbine fuel, you can say. So this emission factor is 3.157 tons of CO2 per ton of this fuel. If you consume 1 ton of ATF, then total 3.1 ton of CO2 will be, you can say, released into the atmosphere. Like that, petrol, you can say if you use the petrol, 1 liter of petrol, 1 ton of petrol, then 3.14 tons of CO2 will be emitted in the atmosphere. So then you can calculate based on that 1 liter. So in 1 liter, how much tons of how much kg of CO2 being emitted. And diesel also same thing, 3.16 tons. Then CNG also 2.7 tons of CO2 per ton of CNG gas. And LPG is 1.49 tons of CO2 per meter. So these are the fuels which are being used so that uh, to reduce the carbon emissions. You can say this LPG is more efficient in terms of carbon emissions. And electricity also, if you see the electricity generation, we are coming into the south. You can say not north. This is why this is taken from the green emission factor in India. So 0.85 tons of CO2 per megawatt of electricity consumed. This is the total tons of carbon emissions. So in other words, 0.85 kg of CO2 per kilowatt hour. Okay. So for the greenhouse gas emission, global warming potentials, as you all of know, this each and every gases are in global warming potential. The CO2 is a base gas, so they have GWP is 1, and methane is 21. The nitrous oxide is 310, like that. So, look, 21 tons of CO2 is equivalent to 1 ton of methane. It is like that. So, based on that, maybe you have to use these greenhouse gases and in the industry and in the processes. So, if you see the maximum GWP of a gas is 23,900 sulfur hexafluoride. So, suppose, for example, if you release, you can say 1 ton of sulfur hexafluoride SF6 in the atmosphere, then it is equivalent to 23,900 tons of CO2 emission in the atmosphere. So, as I told you, there are 4 steps in the carbon neutrality for any industry. Uh, so this is not specific for the airport as such. One is mapping. Mapping means whatever the carbon emissions are there, like scope 1, scope. I told you there are 3 types of emissions: scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. So you have to map those emissions first. Then you have to calculate those emissions. How much of total carbon is being emitted from my activities, from my industry, into the atmosphere. Sorry. So this activity is called a mapping exercise. So for this mapping exercise, you need to use these emission factors and everything. You have to use it, and you have to get it verified by certified verification bodies. It is not like that you have done the calculation at your end and it is being finalized. So you have to do the calculation. You have to get it verified from certification bodies as per this IS 14064 standard. Then that figure is being freeze, so that suppose 1,000 tons of carbon is being emitted by this much of activity. And second step is reduction. You have to take various measures to reduce that particular emission. If you know you have 1,000 tons of carbon emission in a year, then you have to take measures various measures in scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 to reduce those emissions. Like in scope 1, if you are using the diesel as a fuel, then you can convert from diesel to CNG. If you are using the furnace oil into the boiler, then you can convert that furnace into CNG or LPG. Like that, you have to reduce your CO2 emissions in particular area. In scope 2, if you are using electricity from the coal, then you can go for the green electricity like solar or wind. You can purchase that electricity from various, you can say, players in the market. So you reduce your scope 2 emissions. So by these measures, you have to reduce your emissions, carbon emissions. This is called reduction. Third stage is optimization. So once you have reduced the carbon emission, you have to optimize it. You have to get it at optimum level, minimum you have to reduce it. It's not like that to do once in a year to reduce it, and then for the rest of the time you can say as it is. No, there's no emissions as such. So you have to continuous you have to take measures on continuous basis. You have to, so that it will reach an optimum level of emission. And then you will get the stage of optimization. In this optimization, maybe you need to engage some third party for the carbon footprinting management and accounting and everything, so that it will be verified at this stage itself. And by taking all these measures, optimization measures, and after that you can't do anything much because you are reached at optimum level, then you have to go for the neutrality. So what you can do, you have to offset your emissions. Suppose earlier you are having the 1,000 tons of total emissions in a year, and now after taking various measures like reduction optimization, you have reached up to 700 tons of carbon emission. So your 300 tons of carbon emission has been reduced from your various activities and initiatives. So those 700 tons has to be offsetted to a certain level. So there are various methods of offsetting that also I will discuss into this presentation. So you have to offset that emission. So if you offset that emission, then you will reach the status of carbon neutrality. So these are the principles. You can say for ISO 14064, GHG gases emissions and removal. This is the consistency, then completeness, relevance, accuracy, and transparency. So these are the basic principles of standards. You can say like ISO 14001. So in this IS 14064, you need to measure the GHG gases, total emission of greenhouse gases, and removals also. Then you need to develop and design a management tool for it in the future to how we are going to reduce it in near future. How do we achieve net zero or carbon neutrality status from those activities? So in the GHG inventory design and development, so these aspects which we need to consider: organizational boundary, operational boundary, quantification of the GHG removals, GHG inventory component, GHG inventory quality management, reporting of the GHG, and verification. So in the organization boundary, you can say all the facilities and activities coming under the organization, like a physical boundary, has to be considered for the GHG emission calculation. In the operational boundary, you need to consider all the scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emission. You cannot say like that. This operation is not into my compound. It is outside of my compound, so I will not consider it. Though the product is coming to my company for as a raw material, so you have to consider that also as your activity in the relevant scope 1, scope 2, or scope 3. And quantification of GHG and its removal. So you need to quantify each and every emission, scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3, and you need to calculate it based on this standard. And inventory component, yes, you need to do the inventory of it, scope 2, scope 1, and scope 3. Then you have to manage the inventories like accuracy and completeness. Like if you need to check whether correct emission factor has been considered by calculating the total CO2 emissions, and corrected. You can say from which source you have considered this emission factor, whether that source is valid source or not, and all those things need to be checked regularly, because as I said, this government of India is yearly releasing this emission factor for electricity consumption in the north part of India and south part of India. The different emission factors are there. So you need to check on the Government of India website what emission factors I need to consider to calculate the GHG inventory. After inventory, you need to report it, that inventory. So you need to report it to your stakeholders or to the government bodies. Nowadays, central government and state government, they are asking in terms of carbon emissions. So what is the total amount of carbon is being emitted from your activities, and how you are mitigating it. So those types of questions are also coming from the government side, as India is a part of the climate change initiatives in the world. So We need to report it to the government also regarding the what are the climate initiatives taken, what are the initiatives taken to reduce the carbon emissions from the organization. And last step is verification. Verification is all this activity you are doing. So somebody has to verify it whether it is right or wrong. So this verification is being done by third party verifier. Like nowadays, this certification is being done by the Bureau Veritas or TUV or you can say DNV. So these bodies are there in the market. So these bodies can verify your carbon emission calculation and total effectiveness of your implementation process. So these are the net zero emission way forward. You can say net zero approach: optimum energy efficiency, maximize renewable power, zero less emitting fuels, phasing out high GWP refrigerants, and increasing carbon budget of trading and CO2 removal. These are the various we can say actions areas through which we can achieve this net zero emission targets. One more thing, just I want to add this carbon sequestration. You can say I just spend some more time onto this net zero approach. The optimum energy efficiency we have discussed it. Then CO2 removal, afforestation, and technological. So many industries, what they are doing the carbon sequestration project. Suppose industry like ITC or any other industries, major industries. So they have this carbon sequestration. Whatever their emission is being done, the carbon emissions from their activities, is being sequestrated through various sectors like tree plantation. So they have hundreds of acres of land is available with them. So they will plant trees in such a way that they will plant the species of trees in such a way that the total carbon emissions from their activities being sequestrated through this plantation of the trees like that. Those initiatives are also being taken regularly by various companies so that they will consider it as a you can say an effective approach for the carbon neutrality. Thank you.
Thank you, Sadendra.
Yeah.
So, Akshay sir, will the question. Hello, Horvat sir. So,
Just a
Shailendra,
minute.
Horvat
Yes.
sir has. Horvat. Okay, sir.
Huh. Sir, hello, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Sir, I have two questions here. I have posted those questions in chat box also.
Okay.
What kind of carbon emission estimated tools are used by the professionals, and whether the data set is made available for the public, and is there any platform available for that?
Okay. The carbon emission, you can say, yes, definitely there are various carbon emissions tools are available in the market for the various industries as such. And many industries are taking what they are doing this Excel-based tools are available. Like in, you can say in aviation, we have the ACER tool, ACERT, ACERT. So in that one, just you have to fill the required, you can say, fuel consumption and everything into that one. And though that is being calculated because all the emission factors and everything is being pre-filled into the Excel sheet. So you have to fill the quantities which being consumed by you, and directly it will give the total carbon emission calculations barrier. So it is basically depending upon the industries. So my
Okay.
suggestion is that rather than going for a specified pre fabricated tool for this particular carbon emission calculation. So if you go by the industry wise, you can make a tool using Excel based software, and it is very easy to do that, and it is very reliable also. That's what I think.
And is there any platform where this data set is available for the researchers or for the students?
Yes, yes, it is available. So if you see, like many companies nowadays, they are publishing their sustainability reports. So
Okay.
in the sustainability report, they are publishing the total carbon emission from them, like per ton of product or like that. So that is available. That is one platform. There is one agency. The CDP is one of the agencies there. So that agency, what they are doing, yeah, industries all over India, they are reporting their carbon emissions through the CDP, and CDP is publishing the report once in a year based on their data, and they are mentioning what is the total carbon emissions by the particular industry, particular sector. So that is very much available in the market and in the public domain.
Okay. Sir, as far as this domain is concerned, can you please suggest some, or can you just brief us about the opportunities that our students will have in this particular sector, or what kind of skills are required? to work in this particular sector?
Okay. So basically, in the carbon emission management, as I told you, there are total scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions. So one is that students can work so like CDP is one of the organization is working for the carbon management for the industries in India. Then many individual consultancies are also there. But in fact, what I suggest, instead of going to the consultancies, if in the if the candidate or from the if the person coming out from the college or freshers can go to the industry, so this is only one of the, it's only one aspect you can say from the various aspects of the environmental engineering you can say. So CDP and carbon management is one thing. Then second one is sustainability reporting. Then third one is also now CSR is also becoming one of the part of the environmental engineering. So it is not a directly you can say connection to the environment, but yes, still it is connection to the sustainability. So CSR is also one of the area where environmental engineers can work, and definitely the industrial engineering and industrial environmental engineering is also one of the important aspects. So instead of going to the specific to the carbon, they can go to the industry, and in industry you will get an experience to learn all these things and implement all those things.
Okay. So there is one question in the chat
Yes,
box
yes, yes.
uh, by Mr. Saurabh.
Hmm.
So earlier in your PPT, ISO 14001 2015, that
Hmm.
is environmental management system, was mentioned. How it is implemented in this sector, and also how it can be useful in achieving the carbon neutrality and sustainability goals.
Yeah. This ISO 14001, earlier it was the standard is very old. So ISO 14001 1996 was there. So now this is
Hmm.
recently revised considering this 2015. These additional requirements are also mentioned. So in industry, as I said, in my PPT also I showed some of the policies like environmental policy, GHG policy, then CSR policy. So companies are having specific policies as a part of their work culture and target. So to implement ISO 40001 standards, so all the standards like ISO 9001, ISO 40001, and OSHA's, you can say safety management system standards now ISO 45001. So those standards, the basic theme of those standards is PDCA cycle: plan, do, check, and act. So you have to
Yes.
plan your activities, and you have to do the activities, you have to check it, and you have to act accordingly. So whatever you are planning, you have to do, and whatever you are doing, you have to check it regularly and act it accordingly. You have to do these types of things. So if you see the basic structure of ISO 14001, first one is policies required for the industry to implement it. Policies, you can say a measure guideline for any industry to implement the standard, and based on the policy, you can do the further documentation of it. So what is the type of product of the industry, and how it can be managed, what is the raw material being used, what is the input and output. So basically in the ISO 14001, one study is being conducted which is very good, which I feel that aspect impact calculation of the environmental activities. So if in industry, if, from raw material input to the product output, there must be n number of processes. Like you can say, 1,000 processes are there, small processes. So what you have to do, you have to take one process. What is the input for this process, and what is the output for this process? Input may be a raw material, output may be a product. But with the raw material, maybe you are giving input of the energy, maybe of input of the water, or input of some of the chemical, and or along with the output of the product, some waste may come out, like flue gas, you can say, or any chemical waste or like that. So that type of analysis is being done for all the processes and all the activities under this ISO 14001 standard. And whatever output is being achieved through this analysis, aspect and impact analysis, is being addressed, and based on that, objectives and targets are being taken by the department. So suppose for a department, waste is being generated in a very high quantity. So they have to take the target that waste has to be reduced at the optimum level without affecting the production quality or product quality, you can say. So those types of target are being taken by this ISO 2001, you can say, system, and the system is implemented. So you have to take a target, then you have to act to reduce to achieve that target. Then you have to make environmental management plan, then you have to monitor it regularly, then you have to do internal audits, and you have to do external audit maybe once in a 6 month or once in a year. This is how the cycle runs, PDCA cycle.
Sir, when we talk about net zero emissions, so
Hmm.
does it cover all greenhouse gases or just CO2?
It covers all greenhouse gases, but the other greenhouse gases has to be converted into the CO2. So So they have to talk in terms of CO2 only for the net zero. Suppose for a methane, if you are releasing methane into atmosphere, so methane GWP is 21. So the total emission of the methane has to be converted into CO2 by using this GWP potential factor. Then you have to talk in terms of CO2. Even if you are using SF6, which is highest 23600 GWP is here, so you have to convert that SF6 into the CO2 calculation, and you have to project it like that only. So in the world, all the emission is being calculated in terms of CO2.
Okay.
Yeah. I think one more question is there from Viraj.
Viraj, yes.
What are the mitigation for construction phase of the airport? Yeah, Viraj, there are various, you can say, construction phase of the airport. So basically, for any major construction project, Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change are giving the environmental clearance. And in that environmental clearance, various measures are being mentioned, like in the construction phase, in the operation phase, and during the continuous operation and everything. So various measures are being taken. If you see for the environmental part, yes, definitely we have to take the measures to reduce the dust emission from the construction operation. Then you have to, if you have to demolish the things, existing buildings, then you have to construction demolition waste rules comes into the picture. Then you have to take various measures for the labor camps also, the labor colony where they have to stay. Then what is the um, sewage is being how it is being treated, where it will go, and everything. Those measures are being regularly taken. So what are the vehicles being used for the construction? Whether those vehicles are having PUC or not, and what are the type of vehicles? What is the fuel being used? And all those things are being as a part of the, you can say, condition of the environmental clearance of airport or any industrial activity.
So one more question is there.
Yes, Shubham brought it. Yeah.
Yes.
Due to lockdown,
Presently, due to lockdown. Yes.
how carbon footprint of Mumbai Airport is being analyzed? Is there any design for specific Mumbai Airport? Yes, basically, we have the system in place since 2011 to calculate this total carbon emissions for the Mumbai Airport. So, due to the lockdown, definitely flights will be reduced. So, there will be no flights, there will be no passenger movement. So, in that sector, particular carbon emissions will be reduced. Otherwise, whatever the emissions are there, so those emissions are already, you can say, being calculated. But can I share one Excel sheet so that I will explain this question better?
Yes, sir. No
Yeah.
problem. No
Okay.
problem, sir.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the, you can say, JG inventory sheet for 1819. Can you see the figures also, or shall I make it very?
Yes,
bigger?
sir. Yes, sir. We can see everything.
Okay.
Diagrams are also visible.
Okay. Yeah. So you can see this is a scope 1 activity. So this is the fossil fuel and fire extinguisher. So this is the tons of carbon being emitted. So if you see, this is connected by a different sheet. You can say MEAL fuel 21890B10. So these are different sheets are there available in this Excel sheet only. So we have made this Excel sheet in house. So for the scope 2, you can see electricity. These are the various areas like Terminal 1, CCR, Cargo, CA Terminal, Terminal 2. So these are the various areas of the airport. So in specific areas, how much of the carbon total emitted in the areas is being calculated over there. These are the scope 3 emissions. So if you see the total emission per passenger of the carbon emissions from the airport, so from 2014-15 up to 18-19, so in the 2014-15 it was 2.93 kilogram of CO2 per passenger. Now in 2018-19 we have reduced by taking various actions, optimization initiatives, we have reduced up to 1.87 kilogram of CO2 per passenger. And these are the, we can say, if you see, this is how we calculate and take the data. This is the data collection sheet. If you see the diesel, petrol, fuel, CNG, these are the fuels which being used, and in every month, what is the consumption which we are taking from different departments. So we have to fill this consumption in this sheet, and automatically we have to. This is the emission factor, which is the cell is highlighted into the green. You can see. This 2.6, 2.3 is the emission factor. So total consumption multiplied by its emission factor will come to the total tons of carbon, which is being reflected into the main summary sheet. Yeah.
Okay.
So like this, we have done the calculation for all the activities of Mumbai Airport. So this is how we have to just fill the, you can say, figures into it, and total tons of carbon emissions will be calculated automatically, and this is being verified by third party also.
Okay,
Okay.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I have one
Any other
question.
question? Ah,
Yes.
yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yes.
These third parties. So these
Hmm.
third parties are either private consultants or those are government officials.
Third parties for whom you can say?
The third party
Like,
assessment is there. Okay.
okay, third party assessment are the private companies. You can say like uh, DNV is there, TUV is there, then Bureau Veritas is there. So these are the certification bodies. Those giving the certificates for ISO 14001, ISO 9001, the food certification standards are being given by those agencies. Those agencies are there in the market, governed by Government of India. So we can have the certification from that agency. But these agencies will do a comprehensive audit of your system. How do you calculate these total emissions and if it is right or not and everything. Based on that, they will give a certificate.
And how much time it took for lead platinum certification for Terminal 2? How much time span it took?
Okay.
Around-
Okay. Lead platinum
Just
certificate.
information.
Yes, yes, yes. For the terminal two, I must say that there are two types in the certification during construction and during operation. So during construction, we got a lead gold certification for terminal two, and we got IGBC platinum certificate for terminal two during operation and operation time. So for that, we actually we need a data of 2 to 3 years to represent that. It is not like that you have to apply it and get it. So you need a data of 2 to 3 years, and for the application process, it took around 8 to 9 months to finish all those things.
Okay. So,
Any other
students, do
questions
you
from
have any
other students?
questions?
I think there is one more question. What skills are required to get into this field for a fresher? Okay,
Yes.
Shubham Patil. Yeah. Shubham, there is no specific skills are required as a fresher. I'm saying because as a fresher, if you go to the industries, everything is new for you. Whatever you are studying into the college, definitely you will have a baseline. You can say data or baseline. You can say baseline has been prepared for you. But in industry, there are various sectors like environmental. You can say in ETP, STP sector is there. So you have to work on that one. Then this now this carbon management sector is coming, sustainability is coming. So it is specific to the industry. So you do not have to do any specific course to do this thing. Once you go to the industry, then automatically it will roll on. It will things will come into the place properly. So no specific course or is required for this particular. But to be on safer side for the green building, you can this Indian Green Building Council is having a course online exam is there. So I think some 5,000 fees is there. So you can get that course online, and you have to do the examination part and everything, and then you will get IGB CAP, Real Accredited Professional for Indian Green Building Council. That course is being done by them.
So one more question is there from
Yes,
Mr. Bhartingole. He
yes.
is assistant professor in the department.
I know
So
him. I
whether
know him.
yeah. So
Hmm.
whether greenhouse gas reduction at Mumbai airport is voluntarily done, is it part under any other requirements of
Yes,
airport
yes,
authority?
yes,
Is
yes.
it legally bound?
Yes, yes. We have started at Mumbai Airport GHG monitoring in 2011. At that time, it was voluntary. 2011, this program is being kicked off by ACA. ACA thing is voluntary thing. It's not mandated by Government of India. But now, I think in 2018 onwards, Government of India mandated all Indian airports to go for this GHG optimization scheme under airport carbon accreditation. But when we started, it was not mandatory. But now, I think 2 to 3 years back, it has become mandatory for all airport operators.
Sir, in our curriculum, we
Hmm.
have introduced or we have included one entire semester for internship.
Hmm.
So those students who are interested for to go for internship, they can have that opportunity.
Hmm.
Is there any say possibility or opportunity available to work in this particular sector or to get the internship opportunity at airport? Uh,
The internship is for what is the duration of internship? For six
it
months
is
or
for one semester, one semester.
for 6 months?
Actually, it is minimum 2 months to maximum 6 months.
Okay.
Huh.
Yeah, definitely it is possible. Definitely it is possible.
because right now our final year class is in this that is the first batch in this
Okay.
autonomy state as
Hmm.
structure.
Hmm.
So we are looking for some industries and some organizations where these internship opportunities can be say we can get these opportunities. So that's why I'm asking this question.
Yes, yes, it is definitely possible. In fact, we are taking internship from various colleges in Mumbai. From NITI, we are taking internship in environmental engineering. Then we are taking internship from various colleges like Dehradun May College. Then we have one college at you can say Bhubaneswar. There is Sustainability College is there.
Okay.
There is a specific course on environmental sustainability. So we are taking
Okay.
internship from that college also. Definitely, we are taking. We are open to take internships, and it
Okay,
is
sir.
good for
Okay,
them
sir.
also to learn at various stages.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So in this regard, we will be definitely be in touch with you, and
Yes, yes, always, always.
we will find some opportunities in
Yes,
this
yes,
regard.
not an issue. Always, always.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So students, if there is no any question from your side, then I request Shailendra Joshi sir to give some message to our students if there is scope in the environmental engineering or not, as those are very they can't find the way, they are in confusion. So what message will you give to our students?
No, actually, this is a standard question. So let me tell you, when I got an admission in my environmental engineering in '95, the same question was there in my mind, and I got passed out in '99. The same question was still there, whether there is a scope or not. But it is not like that. I must say, once you passed your engineering, so there are various industries are there in the market. Nowadays, the government of India and government of Maharashtra has mandated all the industries and all the processes to have this environmental person on board. Because in fact, if you see the recent environmental clearances given by Minister of Environment and Forest Government of India from Delhi, they have clearly written in the environmental clearance that the company should have a specific environmental manager on board, and sales should be there, department should be there, and is reporting to the highest operating officer of the industry. So definitely scope is there, but maybe you need to check in which areas you want to work, because once you go come out from the colleges, there are various you can say uh, streams from the environmental engineering itself. Basically, one stream is that consultancy. You have to go to the consultancy. Consultancy work is being done by various companies for the various companies and everything. Second stream is in the industries. You have to work for an industry as an environmental engineer, and in the industry you will get to learn many things. And third one is, you can say, environmental, you can say tenders and processes and environmental small projects like that. So my suggestion to you is go for the industries, join any industry rather than any consultancy. But definitely, if you got an opportunity to work with consultant for shorter period of time, it is good. But try to go for industry so that you will get to learn many things, and then many areas like carbon, then GHG, then sustainability, then ETP, STP, then waste management, and so many things, noise management, air quality management. Because in industry, the environmental horizon is very much big than a consultant. So you need to work on various aspects, because industry is polluting air, then water, then noise, then solid waste and hazardous waste. You have to work in each and every aspect. So you will get to learn many things, and you will become an expert in each and every area of the environment. So my suggestion, I can't say my suggestion is that you go for try for an industry rather than a consultancy.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So if there is no any question, uh, sir, shall I end the meeting?
Yes, madam. There is one announcement for the students. The feedback
Yes.
link has been shared in the chat box. So all students as well as faculty members are requested to please submit your feedback. And thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir, for giving your valuable time and sharing your valuable thoughts with our
In fact,
students and faculty
I
members.
should thank the management of KIT and you, sir, and Manjusha for arranging such a lecture so that I can interact with the student and I can join to the KIT once again for this particular good thought. I must say thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Shalendra.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
You can conclude.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. So, okay, I'm now ending the meeting. Thank you. Thank you all the participants.
Thank you.